Let's see where we're up to. Anybody in the chat room, you can let me know whether I'm live or dead, straw man. Let me know. Right, yeah. We're up and running. Right, well, we're not going to waste too much time because I've had internet issues which have been intermittent internet all day. My guest, Mark Windows, he's been having trouble with his. He's been on the show already. He's had to do by phone. So we're going to try and crack on, get a conversation going about how the hell have we ended up in this mess, which has happened within the space of 3 months. I mean, it's not that long ago I was on Mark's show and we were talking about remedies for what people could do to see the oncoming debt. Now we've got a situation where banks are not only already stealing the equity of the small businesses that are never going to start back up after this corona bollocks, but all the jobs that have gone, and the banks have primed bailiffs ready for the end of the mortgage holiday, which is October, and they're primed ready to go. And this is the land and property grab. And you yourself, Mark, were saying that you've been covering Agenda 21. You know, for people who, I always put them onto the internet for the Agenda 21 for Dummies YouTube videos, because it really explains a very big document into something that you can at least chew. But you can see this now unfolding within the space of 3 months, pal, and people have banged themselves up. You know, at the beginning, it was the guidelines were, if you can work from home, work from home. If you can't, go to work. But everybody seemed to take that as bang themselves up. And they've surpassed themselves, mate, with a 5-mile queue for IKEA 2 weeks ago. The general public have surpassed themselves. So, you know, introduce yourself a bit. Everybody knows you anyway, but just tell them where this is going now, because you've been covering this.
Well, yeah, the Agenda 21 came out of the Rio conference in 1992, but before that, it was a document called Our Common Future. Interestingly enough, the global preparedness management system, which has been put in on the back of all this, features no less than Gro Harlem Brundtland, who was the ex-Prime Minister of Norway. Gro Harlem Brundtland actually brought out a thing called the Brundtland Report in 1987. And that was called Our Common Future. Our Common Future has many quotes, which I've been taking around the country and warning people about for the last 3 years with Piers Corbyn, Sandy Adams and myself. And we've had some interesting venues and we've had quite a few cancelled. But the thing is that when this happened, it's the most audacious thing they've ever done. They, who are they? Well, they really is a group of people, and it all comes out of the policies of Agenda 21 and a new system of global governance, which is run under a system called communitarianism, which no one knows what it means, you see. So this is the problem. So people are governed by a system that not only do they not understand, but they don't even know the word which governs them. So that's a big problem, yeah.
Well, for the most part, they're not interested. The most part, people are trained to do what they're meant to do, cover so many bases, and everything will be all right. But within the space of this 3 months now, you have seen this new normal that everybody, that they keep pushing and pushing and pushing, this new normal. The general public are rising to this new normal. I've seen things, Matt, that are beyond belief. You know, this white privilege stuff, white people washing black people's feet because of white privilege. This mentality, this is going beyond the trans stuff that was creating all the ooh-ah at one stage.
Well, let's get into perspective, Paul. Yeah.
It's one drama after another, isn't it? Yeah.
Well, Black Lives Matter is an LBGT group. It was started by 3 black lesbians, and basically it's a funded agitation group. So Black Lives Matter is another terrorist group like Antifa. They're there to stir up trouble. They're there to start whites attacking blacks, blacks attacking whites. That all helps because it takes the eye off the ball, so to speak, and it's a distraction issue. But the point is that what we're seeing is a result of another thing called the UN Migration Compact, which is to destroy nations, right? So you destroy the sovereignty of the nation, and then they comply to global governance. It's very, very simple, this stuff. The public don't know how it works because they have 5-foot plasma screens in their living rooms, which they watch every night. And those 5-foot plasma screens cannot tell them how global governance works. However, if they want to find out how global governance works, they can actually find out. So none of this is hidden, and it's all in front of them, but they choose not to see it. So that's a huge problem. You're talking about a level of compliance, Paul. You're absolutely right. I've never seen this level of compliance before, but a lot of that is to do with Common Core education. It's so-called millennials. These people now in their 30s and 40s are clueless about what's going on. Not all of them, of course. Some of them haven't been through the indoctrination system, or some of them have been through the indoctrination system and managed to come out the other side. The unfortunate ones, though, have been mentored into the Sustainable Development Goals, which all revolves around the idea of man-made climate change, anthropogenic global warming, which was an idea of the Club of Rome, which came out of a document called the First Global Revolution. And that was the document which came after another document from the Club of Rome. Why am I mentioning the Club of Rome? The Club of Rome and Irving Laszlo are central to the whole agenda that's been pushed with the global warming issue. And the thing is that once you understand the template that they're using, they apply the same template to everything, Paul. The same template is used, and I think you know this, in the courts, in the police, in the councils, and in government. It doesn't really matter because it's one template and it's coming down from above. The public.
There's our first break.
That there is a government. Now, the public do not understand something, Paul. They do not understand that there is a big difference between government and governance. We are under global governance. When Boris Johnson, the willing hostage to the World Health Organization, Bill and Melinda Gates, Imperial College, Johns Hopkins University, and go on and on and on. Well, when he was taken hostage, and the other 3 puppets that usually appear with him have already been paid off, he knew that he was a hostage. Boris Johnson was a hostage from the start to this, and he knew it. He now knows that he's not in charge. So
we've definitely lost Mark this time. Hopefully I'm going to get Mark back on. What he's touching on with some of that stuff there with the Black Lives Matters. I noticed that Capitol Hill, part of it has been taken over. A police department has been taken over by these Antifa or Black Lives Matters agencies, for want of a better word. And they declared these as sovereign ground where there's just like no police there, nothing's going on. And this mayor of this town now is crying for federal funds. I just don't know what's going on in the world. It's gone absolutely bonkers. I'd like to thank people who are in the chat room. It is looking like we're going to have a little bit of trouble with Mark tonight. Hopefully he can come back on. But when we're seeing Boris Johnson, you're seeing the same old rhetoric now that is just coming out of. I don't know what to say to people. It's hard to put into words because when you've got a patent for a SARS-CoV-2 coronavirus in 2015, and that company is linked with a foundation that is now offering the vaccine for the mutated version of their patent, that should raise a few questions. It should also raise a few questions from his family background, that is Planned Parenthood, and his father ran Planned Parenthood, what eugenicists these people were. There's nothing new about any of this. It's all the same old stuff that has been planned for so long to get this big world orgasm that they all want. But people are so busy. I don't know what to say to people now that people could be in a lot of trouble with how these people are going to work. As Mark was saying before he was really cut off from the court system, I've seen how these people work. They all work together. The councils are the ones that run the courts and the police. They do as they're told. And the councils are all round tables, be it through lodges, be it through other secret societies, or be it just through general common purpose agencies. If people can't, everybody knows that they're being ripped off at some level, but until it knocks on their door, nothing ever changes. I don't think anything would have changed for myself. Really, I would have always wanted to learn this, but I've never had the time or the inkling. You know, Emmerdale was on. I wanted to play FIFA, and then I was back at work and all that kind of stuff. And then when you start to unravel the small layers, and you just see these layers going on and on and on and on, and I'm pretty good with patterns. You know, you see something once, it's a one-off. Twice, you go, oh, that's coincidence. 3 times, you're starting to think, hang on a minute. Anything beyond that, there's something not right. Countries are having the currencies collapsed. People are coming in with offers, taking things over. Greece, debt that they could never pay back, so they were taken over as a going concern. This is all business, and the business that's grown up is now going to deprive you of your liberty for safety. So they're going to offer you safety. I don't know what to say. We're in a very, very precarious position. It's not looking like we're getting Mark back here. He did say he was having a terrible time with the internet. What's going on in the chat room? Not happening. The elites have power over the sheep. Now, whatever they say goes with them. It's nothing new, is it? Nothing newer than the sun.
Hello,
Are
Paul.
we back?
I had no internet at all then.
I could tell that.
Hello.
Do you know where you was? You were in full flow. Do you know where you got up to? I've gone off on a little bit of a tangent, but
Hello?
you can always go back. You can't hear me?
Yes, but there was no internet at all there, Paul. I think that's the first time it's ever happened. The internet was completely cut. Nothing. Absolutely nothing. It wasn't even whirring round. There was just no internet, you know. It was just getting interesting as well, wasn't it? Or maybe not, you know. Well, we don't want to hear any more about Agenda 21.
Well, I was going
Agenda
into
what? She said sustainable development. I said, now get back to your lunar gardening. Yeah.
Well, that's where this banking system goes to. It's all linked in with what you're talking about with Agenda 21.
Well, now you sound like a very slowed down Dalek, you know. Can't hear you.
You can't hear me? I'm gonna take you out.
Can't hear a word of that, Paul.
Any better?
Where I got up to, you're going about. You're meant to be a 78, and you're going at 33, 33 and a third.
I don't know what. Hang on. We're going to have a lot of trouble with this internet. I can see that. Yeah, well, until Mark decides whether his internet, you know, he needs this 5G. That's what he needs to do. He needs to go and park up near one of those towers. That he'd be okay then. When we start talking about this Agenda 21 and this property and this land grab that they've been planning for a long time, it's about a shifting of people first, as well as property itself. The problem is this system is designed in such a way that nobody can own anything, so they can do what they like in their jurisdiction. As long as you act within that jurisdiction, they do everything legal, and their police, their dogs will back them up to do whatever they like. It's always been that way, but we're taught to act that way. So you've got these documents of these plans to use think tanks to put things in place, to feel out other countries, to see who's in and who's out, which creates a bubbling pot at the top of the echelons. Meanwhile, everybody else is kept entertained while they play politics and chess with the entire world. There's nothing new here. It's just the past, you know, since World War II, the generations have not really known, you know, my generation certainly didn't know the hardship. My mum and dad worked hard enough that I didn't even know what money was meant to be until I had to actually go out and work. But then I was taught a system that made me life hard, and it was purposely taught to my parents and their parents. So there's an obvious agenda of manipulation to take things from people, to leech off people, to give people a living, a lifestyle, while everybody else suffers and pays for that. But then people shout, well, you said you'd pay it back. Who am I going to pay back what to? How do I do this? Well, I have worth. I can sign this off. I can write this off to my worth. Can I or can I not? What does this mean? What does this instrument mean? All these questions, and you're asking them in courts, and they can't answer it. And then they still take everything from everybody. And they've got bailiffs prime now. They're already going after utilities already. Until it knocks on your door, maybe you won't do anything. You know, I've had a few contacts quite recently in the past couple of weeks that people have had enough and they want to learn. But you're in for a fight. They're not going to just give this up now. This is end game. This is all in. Cashless society within 2 years. If you don't have this, you can't buy this, you can't do this. It's getting quite simple, and they told you about it a long time ago. There's nothing special here. They have talked about this, and they're selling you a technology that's going to, Boris Johnson at the UN in 2019 invited everybody to come to London because, you know, with all these new smart cities that we're going to get, you're going to have your smart TV talking to your smart television, fridge, talking to your smart watch, talking to Alexa. Before long, it'll be saying, do this, do that. Look at what people have done. They banged themselves up. They banged themselves away from guidelines that were in the very first day, in the initial onset of this being lowered to a non-highly contagious infection, it being lowered to non-highly, and then locked down the next day. But the guidelines were, go to work unless you can work from home. If you can't work from home, go to work. That was it, simple, but people panicked and banged up. How long are you stopping for, Mark? Can you hear me? Hello? Can you hear me? Don't think you can hear me, can you?
I can hear you, Paul, but it's your sound. You're slowed down, and there's no internet here. There's just no internet. I mean, I've never known it so bad. So, yeah,
Right.
I don't know whether you want to continue, but it's probably not very interesting for people.
Well, I'll tell you what. Just carry
I
on.
can't hear you. No. Never mind.
Don't worry about it, mate. Don't worry about it. I can hear you.
I can't hear you, Paul. It's a waste of time. I think we better abandon this and give the people a rest because it's not happening. I don't think I've just here. It's just unbelievable.
Wow. Live internet, eh? Great action. Well, I don't really know where to go with it apart from, I mean, Mark was going to tell you more in depth about Agenda 21, but the basic terms of it was that he was going to use this agenda to bring something about that they could use to start to take people's property. The 2008 mortgage crash, that was the test bed over in Northern Ireland. You know, there's plenty of people that have been online and on record with that. People like Anthony Carlin who challenged stuff like that over there. Ben Gilroy's who's challenged many a thing what the banks and the judiciary are getting up to over there. And you know the police are just enforcing the law. It's just bonkers. Shall we have one last go?
Let's
Can
have
you
one
hear
last
me?
go. Hello, viewer.
You
I
can hear
you,
me?
Paul. You were very monosyllabic. It was like one syllable. Yeah, I can hear you.
Wow.
So
Wow,
wave. Are you
unbelievable.
there?
Yes, yes, mate. Crack on. Right. You where you're up
You're
to with
frozen
Agenda
now.
21 while you've
Oh, you're
come
back again.
on. Crack on while we've got you. Come on.
Well, I don't think we can go into that. It's not really stable enough. I can't even hear what you're talking about. It can't be very much fun for people. I might sign off actually, Paul, because I don't want to waste people's time. Yeah.
Don't worry, I'll be in touch with you again, Mark, when we can do it again. Oh well. I've got the skills on FIFA. I can't give most people a game on FIFA, I've got to admit. Even though the beautiful game is absolutely ruined for me at the minute. I've proper fell out with it with canned football fans. I can't get my head around canned football. You know, they actually thought that there was a goal scored the other day, and it completely went wide. But the fans thought it had all gone in. It was weird. But the Merseyside derby was what did it for me. It was like a training match and a ghost match, and it's just taken the shine off it. I mean, we could actually win the league tonight, and it's just it doesn't feel the same as what it used to. You know, life is a bit hard when you start to learn some of this stuff, but it's the beautiful game itself. I'm always going to admire, and I can get lost on FIFA, so don't get to play it much, but Manage of all properties on their books, can't they simply nationalise the housing stock? Well, it'd show the hand if they did. If they nationalised your house, you'd start asking questions. So they don't do anything with it unless they have to. The factor is, whatever agreement you enter into in a bank for a mortgage, say, you're actually entering for a title. So it's like, say, if it was 100 grand, it's £100,000 agreement for a piece of paper. But what people have got to switch on to is the PPI stuff that they've been paying out on for all these other loans and things like that and credit cards. There's a loan insurance policy for every mortgage. So upon default, as trustees to the agreement, the bank or building society must trigger the insurance policy. Well, that pays the mortgage off. So what are they doing going after people's property? Because they can't repossess something they've never possessed. And if they're going to foreclose on something, well, they've got to provide evidence that you've caused them loss, that they've lent you something. If all they've got is that you've failed in the agreement, well, where's the insurance policy? This should be sorted. So it has to be like that because of council tax as well, because council tax is a commercial property tax. And that is why every property in this land is all deemed commercial. That is why they deal with the business title owner, which is Mr., Miss, Mrs. It's all a facade. It's all being hoodwinked into a jurisdiction that you can't be recognised as a man or a woman. It's impossible. And we've lost track of how to be able to initiate the right court and get the correct jurisdiction and the correct people to be recognised like that, because once that system cracks, that's it, it's gone. And there's nothing wrong with the system. I'll always argue about this. For the time being, for how this system works, it doesn't need to be a massive jump for any people. They could learn it slowly, because the system works well if we learn how to work with it. We accept an agreement of debt, but we can't pay it. So why are we trying to? Why are we promising to when we're being given a remedy to set it off, to balance the books? We're giving people carte blanche to sell bonds in our name under a false debt that they're controlling. And until people switch onto that game, then I don't know where you go with it. If the mortgage is paid off, you've got the title to it. That's it. You've got the title to the property. You don't own any brick, any piece of mortar, any part of the land. You only own title to that property. If you could get the allodial title, that would be different. That would be the castle that every man has. So it would be every brick, every piece of mortar, 6 to 12 feet down in the dimensions. That's your castle. You can defend that. Whereas this is a business agreement. They are controlling a premises. That's all it's aimed at. All the language is always commercial. Premises, dwelling. The council's definition of dwelling is a composite hereditament. That's two properties in one. You've got a wholly commercial property with a wholly domestic aspect. So that's a prison, that's a hospital, that's a hostel, that's a pub, that's a shop, that's a farmhouse. So it's a commercial property where people live, but it's not classed as a house. It's classed as a commercial property still. They're trying to say that yours is a commercial hereditament. Where's your stock? Where's your VAT payments? Where's your employees? Where's your wage slips? There's nothing commercial about it whatsoever, but they stand under the Mr., Miss, Mrs. They write to these businesses, you reply on their paperwork. This is how they extract all this consent. You might think you're challenging them, but we don't know how to do it. That's why it's taken this long for people to start to learn it. People have had to many people have lost a lot to get some of this knowledge. But yeah, it paid off. It's just the title. It's all about the titles if you can get it, and land registry is just not there to cooperate with you for some reason. So, what else? Just slowing down a bit there. Mate, I've not got that long. I haven't got that long to get uni on. It's all right getting uni on. It's getting him off the fucking report at the end of it. That's the problem, because he's always got one other thing. He's worse than Columbo. Owen Lloyd, what's happening? What's cooking in the hood, mate? Oh, man. Well, I didn't think I'd be doing this much bloody talking. I thought Mark would have done a fair bit of this, but the internet goblins. It's getting interesting day by day with this stuff now, with what's coming out. It's right in your face that the banks have already started to take the equity from the businesses that have already gone, because there's some businesses that aren't coming back. Fortunately, I do know some businesses that are starting back up. What this new normal is going to be like for them, though, I don't know. You know, this pub thing, where it's very hard to imagine. It's very hard to imagine that any of my local pubs are going to get any details off any of their customers. Let's put it that way. And if there's any pub patrols, I mean, the Cockle man used to put his neck on the line when he used to go in, and they wanted to like buy stuff off him. But these pub patrols that they're being advertised, where they're going to come round and say, "Oh, you're too close, you need to do it." I can't, you know, there's bets being taken on what would happen to people like that, because I haven't got a clue anymore. And back in the day, it just wouldn't happen. But when I see people who I've known for a long time, people wearing masks and not knowing why they're really wearing them, they're just doing it because, you know, they do it. There's no answer to it. I get people are scared, but you can be scared and have common sense. And most of these times when you do speak to them, it comes down to they can work it out, but they're scared. And I've never seen the amount of fear in people's faces that I've seen recently. It's been a real eye-opener for me. Yeah, I agree, Tom. I think most pubs will not reopen. I mean, they'd done a fair job on culling the pubs as it was. Barry Truth pubs were already struggling, except maybe Wetherspoons. The amount of people I know who are saying that they're never going to go into Wetherspoons again because of how their staff have been treated, whilst all this bollocks has been going on. You know, people who were regular customers. It's there's so much. Do this, don't do that. Do this, but don't do that. This cognitive dissonance that's going on. The baiting that's going with it. It's like having two dogs going at it before, you know, you're baiting them to go for each other. And then there's I think it's Lincoln State in America that non-whites are exempt from wearing surgical masks now. Non-whites, just stipulating non-whites. If that was the opposite, there would be, everybody would be up in arms. What is going on? Black Lives Matters is being pushed, being funded. It kicks off in 4 different places: America, Paris, Germany, London, all at the same time. Tommy Robinson pops his head up and gets his football mates down there. How are people not asking any questions? It's bonkers. It's bonkers. People can't go, wait a minute, what's going on? There's something going on. Maybe there's not going to be many of them left. Maybe Wetherspoons might be the only place to go. What was it in Demolition Man? Taco Bell. You could only go to Taco Bell because Taco Bell won everything. Maybe you might only be able to go to Wetherspoons. Who knows? Why do I think Belarus didn't lock down? I'm not sure. Maybe they're not in, there are still some of those small places that aren't in the pockets of, totally in the pockets. They can see what's coming. Some people don't want to sell the countries out. Some people have sold them out a long, long time ago. We were probably one of the first that got sold out. I mean, we've been fighting each other for that long. We don't know who we're fighting anymore. Now you just get told to fight them, and the people fight them. You've got, like I said, you've got riots and looting going on in the States. You're getting pallets of bricks delivered to riot zones that haven't started yet. Who's doing that? That's incitement. That's incitement to riot. Who's delivering them? Bonkers, man. Certainly right there, Barry. Certainly right there. It is a big club and we're not in it. What the... I wouldn't have even minded I'd have been asked about any of this and I could have opted out. They give me the chance. The problem being is the system has been in place and it taught my mother and father to teach me what they taught me. Maybe it was through laziness, stupidity and ignorance that I've ended up falling into this path where I've had to look into it. And when it comes to patterns like this, I'm a little bit autistic with them, that people say, oh, you're joining dots that aren't there. People who purposely went out their way to find tin foil to put on their heads, to walk past me, to point at me and point at the tin foil. And they sit next to me and say, hey, Webby, you were talking about this. What do you think of this? What do you think of that? And all I did was I just read their wish list, what they wished they could do. That's all it was. It was what they wished they could do. And look what they've done. And it's been applauded in. Weddings are limited to 30 people. So if someone gets married in a cathedral and hold the reception in a football stadium, the limit is 30. Not if you get the guests to protest the wedding. Get the guests to protest the wedding, because protest is legal acceptance of the wedding anyway, because that's what a protest means. It's legal acceptance. So you can have as many people there, in my opinion, as you like. Don't know why we don't have protests at these Premiership grounds. Sure, you have to get a license for a protest, though. Fauci said today he didn't think the second wave was coming. No. Wonder what the chances are he'll be wrong. They could do either, couldn't they, Barry? It's completely up for grabs. With what the general public have surpassed themselves. I've never seen the general public like this. It's completely like, what did, I woke up one morning and I went, whoa, what happened to this reality? People I've known for 30 years. All right, Webby, oh, don't cross over. Why? Germs. What? Germs. I don't know what world I woke up in, but see, that's going to upset a few people. £5, that'll be a cheap pint, I reckon. I've noticed even the chippies have sneaked the prices up. I don't know. You need black sister. Just have a black guy complain and the media will say that you can have as many people there as you want. You sound racist, you. Where are you selling the WEBSTER reports? No, don't do any of that. Cost me too much to do this shirt. I think it cost me £10 for the shirt. It cost me £10 for the front print and 12 quid for the back print. It cost me 32 quid to print one shirt. I don't see much point in doing that. I've got one shirt in the pipeline. I don't know if that might kick off, but I'll see what it looks like when I get it through. Webby does like a chip butty, mate. Get this message out in the mainstream media about it's all fake. That has to be the answer. You'll have to elaborate a bit more on that. I'm not quite sure what you mean with that. I see what you did there. See what you did there. Wow. If they go then on the plan of the property grab, by Christmas there's going to be a lot of people in a lot of trouble. I just don't know what this new normal is going to be like. They're starting to open things, but they seem to know exactly where the herd is at now. Like I said, 5 mile. I can't get my head around a 5 mile queue for IKEA. I could at least understand the addiction of people who've created McDonald's or KFC or anything like that. I could understand that a little bit, but not for a cabin bed or a flat packer or something like that. I can't get my head around that one. But in 6 months' time, well, in 3 months, look at what they've done. People are saying, oh, we're allowed to go there now. You were never not allowed. You were never not allowed. You've decided that that's what it is. So they put legislation in place that keeps the framework close again. So the smaller you get, the closer they build the cage. And you've applauded it while it's happened because you don't think it'll happen in your lifetime. This is it's like musical statues. Every time you turn around, they're like, and then you turn back and they're creeping up on you again from all different kinds of angles whilst keeping you entertained. It's, you've got all these celebrities saying enough's enough and they hate their white privilege and this, that. I'm going, what fucking planet is this? What reality is this? It's gone absolutely nuts in 3 months. So in 6 months, I don't know, Demolition Man, The Purge. I have no idea. But people bought that a man sent a car up into orbit and it's floating around up there, and then they watch another space launch where a mouse runs around the fucking engine while it's in low Earth orbit. No, nothing. He's going to want to put microchips in your brain, that fella, because everything's going to work like that. You know, he's mates with the fella who's got the cure for the virus that he's got the patent for. Wait a minute. Nothing. Bonkers. Beans, definitely. I can't do the sausages anymore. Not since I've been veggie, but beans. I never trust anybody who doesn't like baked beans. Something not right. That's quite true, same man. They did. They've the herd mentality, the Tavistock, the mind control, the propaganda. They've spent time and money in learning how to react, how to the psychology of a crowd. You know, when an individual becomes a crowd member, becomes a pack member, they know under what circumstances they can force this. Under the right set of circumstances, a human will become cannibalistic within 2 weeks under the right set of pressures. They know what to do. They just need to bring it about. And if they moved too quickly, people would have seen the musical statue moving. So they've done it so slowly while we've all been distracted. You know, while we've all thought we've gone to the moon and then we've all got stoned off our faces while people are killing people in another country for not really a reason, just for money laundering and war purposes and manufacturing. You start to see these, and that starts from an event that didn't happen, the Vietnam War, the Gulf of Tonkin. These false flags, you see them throughout history. Patterns, once, twice, 3, 4, dozen, everywhere, and people don't ask questions. Maybe I've got too much time on my hands. Branston. They're all right. Heinz, maybe I'm a bit addicted, but Heinz, good old Heinz beans. You know, beans always means Heinz to me. I can go with that, son. Asia have stopped shipping rice to us because they need it all for themselves. We've got at least 2 or 3 meat factories, one in Germany as well, all now affected with corona. When that happened in the States, there was massive food bank queues. I don't know what the new normal is going to look like. 6 months. One thing that I do know that we can't get, plaster. Plasterers can't go back to work because all the big companies have signed up, have bought all the plaster. So tradesmen can't do work for themselves. I know that that's been made difficult as well. You know, again, Mark would have been telling you in Agenda 21 about the control of the food supplies. You know, these people are fining farmers in Africa. They're being fined for using seed from their yield instead of going back to Monsanto and buying the next seed because it only produces the one yield. They're trying to make you dependent all on big pharmaceutical, big manufacture, big. Where do you stop with this? We took our eyes off the ball, people. We've been asleep at the wheel for a long, long time. I don't really know what that means, Anthony. Is that a lot? That it's just it's don't know what to say. They're not hiding it. They're saying they're going to take all your money. These bail-ins that are coming, it's the bail-ins. Anybody who's got savings in the bank, they're coming for them now. That's what's going to happen next. They did it in Cyprus. They took everybody's money. You're gonna let them get away with it because they're going to do it under commerce. I think vaccine will be here in the next 6 months. Anyone who doesn't have vaccine will be made to wear a mask and struggle to get work or housing. Won't be able to access to shops, etc. Who knows, man? It's certainly on the cards that's what they want. It's will it go that far? It's up to the people at the end of the day. You know, I still think there's fight, and I still think there's good people, and they'll only get pushed so far, and they will make a stand. Like I said, I don't think I would have, but when somebody comes and kicks you in the balls and punches you in the mouth, says, I'm taking this off you, are you going to curl up and die? Are you going to stand and fight for it? Did my best. But these fuckers control a lot. I haven't heard anything about the job centres, to be fair. As far as I know, they're doing everything online. It's all right, Paula. It's all time do you call this turning up? Oh man. I just don't know what tomorrow brings. Everything's changing so much. You know, the pubs are reopening. The hairdressers are reopening, but they can't talk to people. I just can't keep up with this. Yeah, that's a good way of putting it. That it's the new abnormal. It's so far from anything that you could ever think of as normal. It's absolutely bonkers. You know, when you're trying to order your dinner through an inch of plexiglass and then a surgical mask, and you're going, what? Yeah, no, what? Come on. We need to look into this properly. We need to grow up, take some responsibility for what's happened here. It's not about going out and starting fighting with people. It's about standing where your ground is, where it is paperwork, where it is constitutionally. You know, people are looking to bring a constitutional argument. We've got a constitution, but it's everywhere. Nobody's put it in a document that's just straightforward and open in the correct jurisdiction. That needs to be done whilst you've got chance. But you know, Mark, I don't know if Mark said it while we were on her or off her or on her. It was like the okie dokie. But he was talking about how people aren't aware of how they're being duped in to the acceptance of all this stuff. It's how I said about protest earlier. You can protest everything. Rob Menard does a good definition of it on YouTube, where it's if your child is going to bed, they can tantrum and stamp their feet all they like, but they're always going to end up in bed. And that's what a protest is. They just accept it. Yeah, you can protest, but it doesn't mean anything to us. They wouldn't let you do it. It's the same with voting. You know, on my local pages, there's people arguing over Boris and people arguing over this Starner. Or it doesn't matter with politics. It really doesn't matter. If you want to go anywhere in politics, you do as you're told. You might get rubbish picked up and removed. You might improve people's lives locally, the odd one, but you're never going to change the system to work for the people when you can't even get your local MP to understand that the elderly in a debt-based economy should not be trying to pay for heating. They should be eating and setting the debt off. Somebody should be doing that for them. When I tried to bring that to Andy Burnham, I was kept away from him for 4 years, and he was the Shadow Health Secretary at the time. And every Christmas, every winter, elderly people die because they choose heating or eating. People weren't interested then. Maybe when they start knocking on doors, people will start getting interested. Or not. It don't really matter anymore, does it? They're advertising masks on TV. They've got a shop. They've got a shop that's opened up, a COVID-19 shop for all your COVID-19 essentials. What? For all your COVID-19 essentials. Don't know what to say anymore. Funny today, people stormed the beach and officials coined it a national emergency or some shite like that. Hilarious, the people have had enough. They did declare it an incident, didn't they? A national incident or something like that. I've seen all the local people commenting, "Oh, dickheads! When they cause this second wave and we all go on lockdown again." People who can't see this, I don't know, how can you explain it to them? You know, I have to be the nutter. I have to be wrong. You know, I've had a local fellow who's an ex-copper who insisted the stuff about the bills of exchange was utter nonsense. But I said, "Have you read it?" "No." "Well, do you want to read it?" "No, it's a load of rubbish." So he had an opinion on something he had no knowledge of. That's what you're up against on the mainstream. But people are waking up. People have really had enough with this bollocks. Could be a real tough winter ahead. I think once we start getting colds, naturally it will start off again. Yeah. When Judy Mikovits put her video out, she was talking about the flu vaccine and the hyper immune response that some test subjects who had the vaccination had. So the body started to defend itself to death when it came into contact with natural colds. With the way the falsified death certificates, they can seemingly do what they like, especially if they're saying COVID, not released to the family, straight to the crematorium, and councils are now building their own crematoriums and offering their own funeral services. It's an all-in-one thing, isn't it? Oh, hey, you sneeze then. Oh, straight in, boom, job done. They're even, you know, they advertise now. Look at this £1,200 funeral plan. What a cheap plan. Do you like some life insurance for an over 50s plan? You can have a free pen. You know, what society have we become? It's sick. Squire 7, I don't know what link you mean, if that's to me. To me, to you. Yeah, I did have a guest on, then off, then on, then off, then on, then off. It was Mark Windows. He couldn't get an internet connection. He's out in the country somewhere. Paula, I'm grateful for little places like this where I feel comfortably abnormal against like-minded souls. Is that like a backhanded compliment, that? You're all abnormal, that's why I like you? No, I haven't. But Mark's had Piers on quite a few times. I was going to. I've corresponded with him on Facebook briefly, but I was going to see if I could get him on. Yeah, be interesting to see from that kind of point of view. The problem I've got is, as I have a mate who worshipped Jeremy Corbyn. Jeremy Corbyn was going to save the world. He's had tea with Jeremy Corbyn. He worshipped him, and then obviously Jeremy was battered and torn apart. For me, if you're at the head of the Labour Party, you've got to be towing the line at some level, whether you portray yourself or you are a people's man. There's got to be boundaries there, because you wouldn't be there, and anybody who would think otherwise, I don't know how to explain that to them, because it's a repeat of doing the same old thing. The only two parties mainly that are ever going to get in are the two main parties, and you're basing it on what they want you to base it on. So you argue and you vote over nothingness because they all agree on the same thing, and everybody else still runs off with all your equity. It's an age-old trick. A bit like coin clipping. Yeah, Starmer did, Chris. He sacked. What's her name? Somebody described her as a placky mank. I don't know, and I can't remember her name off the top of my head. Maybe somebody in the chat room can tell me what her name was. But yeah, he sacked one of his staff members for anti-Semitism. So, it's not like the fact that the Labour Party hide very well that they have somewhat maybe Israeli connotations to them. Who knows? Maybe the lobbyists have lobbied really, really, really well and really, really hard there. The thing is, if every time you come home from work, you've been broken into and you see the same lads or same lad every time, how many days you've been broken into before you stop that lad? When you start seeing the same people showing up at the same places and they're all pointing at each other, and the system's controlled to not let you win, basically, you're even taught to let them win. Maybe you should think about that when you're teaching your kids the exact same. You can argue, though, that Corbyn was a good guy and that's why he was annihilated. You could, or he could have just been playing the game. Who knows? Will we ever know it? There we go. That's who got sacked. Rebecca Long Bailey. Anti-Semite. Is there anything worse than an anti-Semite? Would it be a white anti-Semite because they'd be racist as well? Wow. Never thought I'd see the day where all this nonsense was, it was right in front of you every single day. Bit of wit going in the chat room. With all due respect, you've been going on about this shop for years. Now it's changed, mate. What do you mean? What does mean, mate? I don't know what you mean there, man. No, playing the game, red versus blue, blue versus red, poly tricksters. It's the same old game, isn't it? How can you win a game that's rigged? It's not the vote that counts. It's who counts the votes. And in the States now, they're trying to make it where you'll never go and vote in person again, whatever that means. But literally, you're going to do it online. The trap's set. Trap's set. Squire 7, the gas safety lark. What do you mean? I get what you're saying, the gas safety lark, nothing's changed. What do you mean nothing's changed? I don't know what you mean. Exactly right. We know all the same old descriptions, don't we? It's two cheeks of the same arse. It's I just don't know how we got to this stage so quickly. I never really thought that people would have bought into that so hook, line, and sinker with all the whoppers that they know that these people tell, yet they've still trusted them on this. I mean, somebody wanted to debate me on it using the NHS website as evidence. It was thingy. Squire 7, yes, I do remember Kevin Mark. Good man. Voting machines. So I literally wouldn't know where we go from here if I was going to even attempt to suggest anything. This has gone so well for them. You know, somebody put earlier, where'd I expect it in 6 months? By Christmas, I don't know what the new normal is going to be like. Depends on how much and how easy we're going to bend over, I suppose. Gas safe certificate is the con they used to get in. To beat that trick, get a plumber with a gas safety cert and pay him £60. They can't trick the way in. In my experience, in my opinion, that's not quite true. You can present your own gas safety certificates after you put your own meters in, but if you invite them to come and check the supply, the only obligation you've really got, if you wanted to do the system correctly, the only obligation you've got is to register your meter so that they can register what gas usage that you use. But they should then separate it from the commercial accounts to the domestic accounts. So when you register that meter, it says, "Oh, you're not liable for this," so they send you the correct instrument and they zero that account. Whereas if it was a business, yeah, they'd force entry anyway, but that's how they're going with it. You can produce a gas safety cert, but as long as they stand in that commercial jurisdiction, they're forcing entry to your house for a monetary dispute. So your main argument for me is your jurisdictional stance. Whereas when you put them on the spot, are you saying you're going to force entry for a monetary dispute? They can't award a warrant for that. So it's about the jurisdiction. Take them out of the commercial jurisdiction, and it stops the issue of the gas safety cert. Even though you present it safe, it's perfect, they just ignore it. That's what I'm saying. You start with this, you're in for a fight. Don't think that you're going to just walk in and go bang, 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 bang. It doesn't happen. More so even these days. And I would say from Derbyshire down, because Derbyshire's pretty bad, but Nottingham's always been bad. Nottingham's one of the most corrupt bloody councils and districts for all this kind of stuff. But there's nothing that new there. There was a sheriff there once who was a bit corrupt, I think. Boris said the other day he could reverse the easing of the lockdown at any time, and he said, "Oh, And he also said lockdown will happen in regional areas with new cases. Yeah, they're going to start conditioning people regionally. They were talking about doing it in Liverpool a week or two back, and that got cancelled and changed. So I'm just seeing that Leeds has just put the news up that Liverpool are champions. Like I say, it's quite surreal. You know, for me, I was at Anfield the last time we won it, and I thought I would have been on fire for it this time, but I fell out with the game. I mean, it didn't help that every goal last weekend was scored by BL Matters. I mean, he's a fucking great player. I don't know how much he's going to go for in the summer. Yeah, funny that you mentioned that, you know, Blaze. You know, I got a phone call today from a company who wanted to know when I wanted my smart meter fitted. I said, I've already told you that I don't want your smart meter fitted and don't contact me again about it. Oh, okay. Funny you mention it. If I remember correctly, the bailiffs and the courts will start to get busy from next week. Yeah, well, the lockdown's eased now. They can send people back through the court system. Most of them won't need it. They'll be rubber stamp most of it because people just don't go to courts. That's what we found when we were challenging for the gas warrants and stuff like that. There was nobody else had been there. Nobody else. What you're doing? What you're talking about? Nobody had even bothered to turn up and challenge it. Very few were doing it for council tax. But people have just got to pick and choose the fights, and so many people are coming from different angles. People have made inroads through it with mortgage arguments, you know, but people want court documents saying that yes, he's won, bang, bang. It doesn't work like that. It's an ongoing fight. It's not. This isn't an easy game. You know, it's difficult, especially when you're trying to learn as you go, and that's what so many people have been doing. The guy pressing the crowd buttons on the Premier League must have a fun job. Oh. I mean, they're not going to. So Liverpool can't go and celebrate. I don't understand it. There's people who've relied on this for the happiness of their life. This is the only thing that could actually make their life happy, and they can't go and do what they normally do. I know people who've travelled 3 days in the same clothes, sleeping on floors in air lounges and everything just to get to a game that they were miles away from, just to experience it. And they've done that in 3. This is crippling. They can't get there. It's bonkers, but people have banged themselves up. People are applauding it. Lincoln Court rubber stamped 76 utility complaints when I was there to successfully object. That's what they're playing. That's the game they're playing. Northampton's the same. There's no judges, no solicitors. Yet they're passing judgments. What are you doing? Well, they've got jurisdiction over commerce, and all they need is a county court stamp. I've said before on many a show that land registry aren't there to keep your property safe like they should be. They're there to clear paper. And they needed a county court stamp to take somebody's property after awarding jurisdiction and the property to somebody without anybody's consent, without any signatures. And the police helped them do that. That's a corrupt system. Why the F are men talking about football? Don't know. You always had a great sense of humour. Everton to win. Yeah. Hey. Well, done an hour and 15 minutes. I don't know if we've talked about anything new here. It seems to be an ongoing thing that everything's rolling into one. I don't. The sky's the limit for them, really. Depends on where the people draw the line. I'm fortunate that I do see at least some local people that've got a little bit of common sense left. But common sense is very few and far between. Cheers. Appreciate that. Never goes in. Mate, I'll always promise to give it you. I promise. Anyway, guys, cheers for putting up with all the technical itches and listening to me drone on for a bit. I've no doubt that there's going to be many more times that I'll be droning on because things are happening really, really quickly. It's almost biblical. It's biblical for me what's going on here. I've never seen anything like this in my life, and it's not just the one country. It's everywhere. You know, it's where do you hear the words? Those who have eyes can see this. It's not hidden anymore. It's just you that's not looking. Take care, lads, girls.